I think that people expect that face-to-face learning is the ideal, but I don't think that we are ever going quite back to that. What we're seeing is more of this integration of the technology into the day-to-day. We have seen that schools have had this kind of trial by fire in terms of trying to reopen successfully, and that many schools have had to use a system of using different ideas around what it would take to reopen and then pivoting when those ideas did not work well, meaning that some have had to go back and had to close. And that's been a global challenge. Well, one of the things that you're starting to see is that schools are making significant investments in technology for face to face learning. I think what you're starting to see is that there's just more technology. So, whereas you may have just had students have interaction on a laptop, now you're seeing them use multiple devices all at the same time. And it's also that they're learning how to engage with one another socially. You're seeing that teachers are teaching both to hybrid learners as well as to their face-to-face students, and the technology is what is the bridge for that to happen. So students can have group projects so that they can have lectures happening in their classes. There is much more engagement that's happening, and it's happening across multiple devices at one time. We know that the estimates have ranged from as low as 3% to as high as 10% of students who have been disengaged for almost the better part of a year. And so there's significant learning loss that people are expecting when those students get back to school. But we've got to figure out how we get those families and those students back into the classroom. One of the things that we're learning from all of this is that parent voice has become central to this conversation. So parents are driving much of how schools and districts across the globe are responding to this crisis around reopening schools. And so the innovations that you see have been driven by parent demand largely. Parent demand is really at the core of this conversation. And so I think that the marketplace should continue to take its cues from there. That parents want to have choices and they want to be able to exercise those choices according to how it best fits their family's lifestyle and their child's academic and social emotional learning needs. We still have classrooms that don't necessarily have windows or strong ventilation systems. And so we know that has to be a priority, particularly in some of these older buildings. You have to, remember that a lot of the buildings, especially in our large urban cities, were built at the turn of the last century. And so they looked like fortresses because they were meant to connote safety. And as they've gotten older, they're harder to remediate, they're harder to renovate. But we know that that's also part of the challenge moving forward. And I just think that we are in a place where we want to press reset about the reopening of our schools. And so we have some time now to think about what we want our schools to be and how we can reconceptualize using some of those buildings that have been historically a challenge.